All right. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. This is Elizabeth and Jeff Beaudre, the owners of Tipple's Wines in Gainesville, Florida. And this Wine of the Week tasting, we are going to be, it's part two of the Finger Lakes exploration in upstate New York with the Hermann J. Wiemer Vineyard. This week, we're doing the white, a great summertime wine, the Dry Riesling. All right. If you've not already done so, now is the time to pop that cork. I gave my wine about a 1 hour chill in the fridge, take it down to around 40 degrees. If you left it in, say overnight or something, and you're in the 30s, it's not going to hurt anything. You'll taste more flavors and get more aromas as it warms up.
In preparation for this, I walked Monty about 3/4 of a mile before this, and it said 97 feels like 106. I was like, okay, so, I'm drinking a white tonight.
Ready for a summertime wine.
Exactly.
Florida summertime needs German-derived grapes. All right, so now let's pull up the first slide, please. Okay, thank you. If I can remember how we do this.
Well, I was wondering.
I seem to
what
drift.
Was coming next?
Legitimately, I was giving in a drift energy. Yes. All right. So from the Finger Lakes, upstate New York, ratings, James Suckling 92 on this guy. I mentioned this last week, but we've got some new participants. So I've been looking for a while to feature the eastern side of the country's wines. Mm-hmm. And we'll look at this and we'll see more of this later. But the winemaker for Hermann J. Wiemer was the winemaker of the year for Wine Enthusiast magazine last year. So I thought this is a great one with, obviously making good wines, getting attention, nice ratings. The one thing with a lot of these wineries is they're very small. So a lot of the wines can be very expensive. And these guys are more in line with market pricing. In addition to having great ratings, it was just the whole package.
Yeah.
So a great example, a great way to get into exploring New York wines. Food pairings on this guy: grouper piccata, oysters Rockefeller. Oh, grouper piccata, right?
Grouper piccata. Although we're having snapper tonight.
We are having snapper, but we're still on point. That works.
Well, now that my mother's cooking for us on Tuesdays, it pairs much better normally.
And pistachio encrusted chicken thighs. Yeah. How about that? Jake made those the other day.
Oh, did he?
He did, and at the store. And
he made them at the store. Make them.
Jake at the store made them. Let me have a couple of them.
Okay.
They were delicious.
I was like, do we have a kitchen that I did not know about?
That's right. All right. So there's the tasting. Let's jump back to us. Now we'll talk a little bit more about this wine.
And we already have some first impressions.
Right.
Okay, so Linda said, when I initially smelled it, I felt like I got apple, but when I tasted it, I felt like it tasted more like stone fruit, maybe something like peach or stone fruit and honey.
Well,
and definitely apple, Chris said.
Linda would only write that if she wanted to be exactly right. All right, that's the only reason to write that. So, so this guy is 100% Riesling. So it's not a blend, it's all Riesling. Mm-hmm. Alcohol content's 12%. Okay. Now for Riesling, that's a little high.
Okay.
Why is it high? Because it's a dry Riesling. So they have longer fermentation. They change more of the sugar into alcohol. Mm-hmm. So you end up with lower sweetness, higher alcohol. And that's that kind of play back and forth, right?
Mm-hmm. And I do feel like it's dry, but I feel like it has a note of sweetness. So I think the honey's a great call too, because I do feel like there is a little that note of sweetness. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
absolutely. Mm-hmm. So this one will be technically dry, but not as dry as some of the whites we've had, right? Mm-hmm. It's got a little bit of residual sugar in it, though that's done by a specific measurement. That's one of the only things in the wine world that is empirically driven, where X amount of sugar at the end of fermentation equals dry, semi-dry, sweet,
okay, kind of it's a non-subjective thing, right? It's very objective. So and Linda wants to know what's normal ABV for a Riesling.
They run from 8 to 12, depending on.
So we are very much.
Oh yeah,
we are the
this is at the top end. All right. I mean, you may see a 12.5er. I can't think of one off the top of my head. 8. We are at the top end of what I've seen for Riesling ABV. That's a great question.
Yeah. And then Jerry was saying Riesling, as far as dry to sweet, it runs the gambit from very dry to very sweet.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the fun things about Riesling, and we'll talk a little bit more about that.
Okay.
It's a very complex wine. A lot of people are like, sweetling.
Sweetling.
Yeah, well, honestly, that's probably what
Jeffism.
Riesling, they just like, it's just a sweet wine, and they blow it off. It's got complexity of flavor. It has a lot of different options for how it can be made into wine. It's a grape that should be more appreciated and more respected in the US. Plenty of the world are like, well, if you don't respect Riesling, you don't know wine, right? Like if you're in Germany, there's no lack of respect for Riesling.
I feel like in the US, we have a lot of lower level Rieslings.
It's part of the problem. And Germany sent over low level Rieslings to start things over here.
Why? They thought that we had no palate.
Traditionally, the United States does like sweet, and we like inexpensive. So what are you going to send over?
Sure.
Right.
They were like, Germans won't drink this. Send it to the United States.
Aging potential is really interesting for Rieslings. That's one of my favorite parts about Riesling, right? You're like, like a little nip, a little bit of a sweetness in there, and but they actually can age a long time. And for white wines, they can age particularly long. So because of the acid, it's a high acid grape. So when you have a combination like this dry Riesling, we have a nice tartness on there, even though we're talking about a little bit of sweet, but we got a lot of tart. So we have a lot of acid, and we have a 12% alcohol level. So we're getting on the upper end of the threshold.
Yeah, this kind of wine.
So between the two, you have a long aging potential. And what's fun is this will be the first time that we've said this. All right, so we did a 2-part series last week. We did the Cabernet Franc from the same winery. This wine can age longer than the Cabernet Franc. So the white has greater aging potential than the Cabernet Franc.
Yeah, that's not what you would expect at all.
It is not, right? Everyone always assumes, you just lay down a red, you can do it for 15, 20 years. No, like not all of them. Not all of them. They're
not a lot of them. A lot of them that we talk about, you're like, no, 5 at the most for this one.
Right. Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So anyway, so the aging thing is, I think, kind of fun. It's really kind of a standout. Stainless steel fermentation on this guy. There's no oak. We're not dealing with a buttery, oaky, butterscotch notes tonight. So we had some initial thoughts about some of the flavors, right? And
we've got apple, honey, stone fruit.
Yep, stone fruit.
Any other
peach is always
initial thoughts on the flavor or the aroma?
Had some very mild mineralization when we first opened it up.
Right. So it does have some of that, and that is one of the things that Riesling is famous for. Okay, you've got peaches and maybe pineapple, but you get like a slate or mineral or granite, kind of to anchor it. And this guy, it has that. Now, one thing that Riesling is famous for is that petrol nose, right? So it smells like, like a little bit like gas, or like people say a fresh open can of tennis balls or new tennis shoes. This guy's not really doing that.
No, but I have had more of the tennis ball note on things before. Now, I don't really get gasoline, but I get the tennis, which I guess that's the same note.
It's the same note. It's just different. So, and that plays off of how much minerality you can pull out. I will say this guy, and most people don't like that note.
Yeah.
So it's not a negative that it's not there.
Right.
It is a traditionally disputed quality where some people say yes, because it's quintessentially Riesling. And other people say, I really don't like that. I don't want it to smell like gas.
No, I get it. Brian is already raving on this one. So save your ratings for later, though, Brian. I'm not going to read them out right now. And initial grapefruit, some floral white flower components, blossoms.
Beautiful. Hey, Robin, what I'm thinking is, like white flowers. How about this for like a little more specificity? How about orange blossom? Right? Yeah. You guys ever gone through Orlando when it's going through the bloom? Yeah.
Yeah, especially, well, I mean, I used to live in the outskirts of Orlando where all the orange groves were. So, and then Consuelo said that the grapefruit, and then it softens. And then Chris and Robin, maybe some bear.
Hey, You know what?
Then they pair.
Pear, right.
But yes.
So I like the pear call.
Yeah, not so much bear.
Right, like white peach, you know, and once again, the minerality is there. Mosel, like higher end Mosel Rieslings, which I happen to have a certain gentleman here tonight that has a lot of those, give you more minerality.
Yeah.
But I do like what I'm getting out of this.
Mhm.
This has minerality, it has a balance, it has a nice tartness.
Mhm.
It's not only fruit. White strawberries, that's a
that's
cool
a really
call.
good call.
Because and pineapple is one of the tasting notes, and those white strawberries have a pineapple-y taste to them.
Mhm.
So that is a great call.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love what we're hearing. It is.
Yeah, and Chris said growing up near the orange trees, yeah, he could definitely smell those blossoms too, the orange blossoms too.
Well, by the mineralization, I also meant the petroleum smell, your kerosene or gasoline, whatever you, but it was very, very mild and it's kind of dissipated.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
because I'm not getting any now.
Yeah, and we're in the breeze from our AC, so that anything that like too subtle is probably.
I actually did.
Okay.
I took the dog for a walk before this, and I was like, oh, I'm putting on a 3/4 sleeve shirt. So I thought about bringing. I have this fan in the bathroom. I thought about bringing the fan, but I was like, this is a bit much. It's going to be like blowing like Beyonce or something.
I was going to say going full Beyonce.
Although I did think.
Yeah, right. Well, it's funny because it's funny that Beyonce comes up because I am going to be invoking her name in a few slides.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting.
So why don't we jump back to the slides? I think we've done a really nice discussion so far of the what we're tasting and smelling. Next. All right. So wine label review, right? Once again, go to the front here. Hermann J. Wiemer Vineyard. So all right, we got the name, we got Riesling, very easy to see which varietal of grape you're going to be trying. The vintage right there. Dry is, you know, right. So in Germany, the dry Riesling is called a Trocken.
Okay.
Right. So if they put Trocken on there, it might be a little confusing for a lot of people. So going with dry Riesling is very helpful in the US. Estate bottled and grown. I love it. It's right there. That's one of the things I go to a lot, right?
Right.
And it doesn't mean that it is automatically great grapes, but it does mean the person who made the company that made this wine had control, soup to nuts, start to finish.
Right.
And so we're really going to be enjoying, hopefully, right, what they put together. So from the growing to the venting to the bottling, it's all been done with the Hermann J. Wiemer winery. So that just, to me, I like that. It makes it just, it's a bonus for me. It's not the only good wine that I've had by a far stretch. You know, there's a reason that the French have a term for people that buy their grapes but are still really good winemakers. They're called négociants, right? There's nothing wrong with that, but it is fun when you have somebody that has all that control. From the Finger Lakes and Seneca Lake sub-AVA within there. So they're really getting very specific about where this is from. So you've got control, you've got specificity. I like all of that. That would all attract me to this wine. If I had no wine help in the store, this would all have me feeling really good. They've got a quick little story on the back about the winery and let me teach you a little bit more about it. And but I'm gonna tell you, they put so much on the front that on the back, there's not that much more to gain, right?
Sure.
You know, like I'm already in. I'm in. So traditional bottle, by the way, you see the extra tall.
That's what I was going to ask about. Why is it like that?
That is a traditional Riesling bottle. It's just something that developed. It is what we actually talked about that a little bit, and Jerry and I discussed it because there are some theories as to why it would be, but there's nothing definitive to lock down for me to say it looks like this because of this. Someone at some point decided that was a really beautiful bottle somewhere in the Mosel, and it took over, and I've never seen anything to really convince me there was a specific reason.
So let me ask you, which I may have asked before and forgotten about, but when we have a red wine, we have dark bottles. White wine, we have lighter bottles. Is there a reason for that? Like, does the darkness, like, does the red need to be protected from the sun more?
They all need to be protected from the light. I mean, that's the green in here. There really isn't one more than the other. It's as far as light, it should all be about the same. I think it's more of a choice to be able to show you that it's a white wine. Because we had some in the store. Someone was commenting on these white wines that I brought in, and they were using red wine colored bottles. And they were saying, I almost skipped over this. I was looking for a white wine and it was the wrong color bottle. So I think once again, that's more cultural tradition that has translated into things that we see.
Well, and I feel like rosés are always in clear bottles, right? Just to show off the color.
Show off the color. Yeah. And they're meant to be consumed young.
Oh, okay.
So they don't have to worry about protecting from light as much. All right. Next one, please. So sweetness levels, right? Here we are. What I kind of liked about this guy is we go from bone dry, and there are a couple of different ways to look at it, and they have it like degrees of sugar left, and it got kind of complex, and I didn't think very much fun. So I decided to go with this guy. It's a little easier.
I just love how it says bone dry, 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 dry.
Right, dry, dry, dry. These are all dry. But that is my thing when I say it's a dry wine, but you're like, yeah, but I'm getting a little sweetness. Right. But Jeff is saying it's still dry. Yeah. It's because of the spectrum, right? Okay. So we are at a dry Riesling level, which is the least dry version of dry.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
So dry Riesling here. So then, we get up to Cabernet. Riesling is the next level. There's Cabernet, there's Auslese, Spätlese, right? So Spätlese, we got even sweeter. Auslese is the sweetest of Rieslings. It depends on when they pick them, how much sugar that they leave in the, and when they're done. And then these are really kind of dessert wines. They're very sweet on the edge. Okay. Right. So, but by the way, I do have a sparkling, extra dry Brut Riesling that would be way down here.
Really?
I mean, you can take it all the way down. And that, I love that Riesling should be used, I think, more around the world. I think the problem is being able to grow it well. Okay. Because it has certain demands. But we'll talk about those in a minute. So okay. I'm just jumping ahead. All right, Riesling. Color levels, pale straw to deep yellow. We are, I'd say, right in the middle, right? Yeah, right about in the middle.
I'd say, yeah.
You see that there is some color to some of the grapes. It's not just all white.
Yeah.
So they have a little bit. You know what else looks like that is Pinot Grigio. And because Pinot Grigio and Pinot Gris are the same grapes, Pinot Gris looks like that as well.
Yeah, I didn't expect to have some of the redness in there.
Well, their parent grape, one of them was a red grape. In fact, a red Riesling grape.
Really?
Yeah, it's a not very common grape at all anymore, but yeah. And so there is some redness in the genetics. So primary flavors, lime, green apple, beeswax. Well, let's go with honey on that, right?
Yeah.
Jasmine, I would just say are different floral discussions, right? Off dry, this guy's dry, but once again, it's like I said, the sweetest of the dry. Light in body, sure. Tannins, none. We're out of there. High acid, absolutely. Under 10% for a lot of them. Yeah. This guy's the dry version, so we're bumping up. And that would actually, and for me, I'd go medium high on the acid on this guy, not high. But all in the, in the range. And petrol, you see the petrol note, which is a little absent on this guy.
But that would be by design, since they control everything.
They do. Yeah, they do. So yeah, they're working on that. And it may be the minerality. I would say it probably has more to do with the minerality that they're working with in this area, which we're going to talk about the soil later on. So the origin, Riesling, the origin is the Rhine River Valley. You see that goes from the Netherlands, Belgium, Germany, a little bit of France, Switzerland, somewhere in there, Riesling was developed. But in Germany, Riesling became queen. And that is the reference I was talking about, Beyonce. I was like, Riesling is the Beyonce of German wine. Right.
What about Austria?
Austria, they work with a lot of Riesling as well. Yeah, and you see it down there at the bottom. Yeah. So, and you get some out of Italy as well, over in the Alps, because the Alps are here. They don't have the topography, but the Alps are all down here. Switzerland works with it. Switzerland just does not export a lot of wine. They actually make a decent amount of wine, but they just don't export a lot of it. So the first recorded use of in winemaking was in Germany of Riesling in 1435. All right. Like I said, it's
a monastery.
They didn't say where. No, it was just yeah. Anyway, it's the Beyonce of grapes. Said that flexible in winemaking style, so it can be sweet to dry to extra dry. You can really work with it. It also can be still or sparkling, so it's a really versatile grape. It comes in a lot of different options. So you can be on the entire spectrum to find your favorite place, or or just enjoy each of them, depending.
Yeah, but you know what? That can make it very difficult, I think, because if you fall in love with a specific style of Riesling, then like if you are just going blindly into a wine shop and you don't have help,
well, that's true.
Then you could end up like, if you like a very dry Riesling, I mean, it says dry on there, but
but a lot of them might say Trocken.
Yeah, and you wouldn't know,
right?
And you could end up with something much sweeter than you want, or if you like a sweet, you could end up with something much dry. I think it's great that it's versatile, but also it makes it more difficult.
Well, you're right. It's that much more.
If you're going blindly into something to get what you are expecting.
And that's a reasonable point. That's a good point. So these guys are, let me jump back up here, small clusters of very dense small grapes. So these guys are very susceptible to mildew and rot. And so because of that, they like cooler, low humidity areas.
So we do have a chat question about the sugar. And actually, I'm really glad that you asked this, because it's the same thing that I was thinking. So since sugar turns into alcohol, why is it that the sweeter wines are lower in ABV? Has it not converted to alcohol yet? And so that's why it's still sweet.
That is exactly right.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
The yeast, they turn off fermentation before the yeast continues to eat all the sugar.
When you're dealing with a sweeter wine.
When you're dealing with a sweeter wine.
Okay.
They get to a certain taste point, they stop fermentation. Because the yeast would keep going. They're like, hey, I'm here for days, right?
How do they stop it?
Usually temperature control, get it cold.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you can do other things, but the easiest thing is to make it cold.
Okay.
And the yeast just falls asleep and falls out of solution. So you're also at the same time clarifying the wine.
Oh, okay. And then that explains why the sweeter wines are younger?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you like for me to advance?
Yes, let's go.
Okay.
Let's see, where was I? I was going through, can have tremendous aging potential. I already covered that. Oh, and then just some fun things. So just leave it on there, if you will, because it's the last one on the grape.
Okay.
Of the 7 oldest wines in the world, a Riesling is number 4.
Oh, wow.
Yes. The Rutsheimer Apostel wine.
My favorite.
Right. I'm saying apostle wine. That's got to be something to do with monks making it or something. It's a German Riesling. Is one of the 7. It's number 4. It's from the vintage year 1727.
Wow. Jeez.
And now to head it off at the pass, because this is what happens. Somebody's going to say, and it's going to be Paul, hey, Jeff, what's the oldest wine in the world?
Exactly.
And Paul's not paying attention, and I'm making fun of him. Unbelievable. So anyway, the oldest wine in the world is the Speyer wine bottle. And that Speyer, I believe, is named after the archaeologist that found it in a Roman crypt. And it's a glass bottle that you can see through, but they glass enclosed the top. It's completely sealed. So it hasn't all just evaporated, right? From between 325 or 350 AD.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It looks very disgusting.
I'm sure.
I should have grabbed a picture and be like, look at this sludge.
They were like, this is interesting. No one's drinking this.
Right. Though I will say, they speculate that the Riesling may be drinkable. It may not be delicious, but it may be drinkable without killing you.
That's like that meme that I saw that said all fungi are edible. Some of them are just edible only once.
Yeah, that's right. That's Terry Pratchett, who writes amazing, funny fantasy books.
Is that who it was?
Yep.
Okay.
So next one, please. All right, so what do we have here? We're dealing with the thin skin. We're dealing with actually a nice peripheral zone, because Riesling does provide good flavors. It's not just lemon water, right? It's giving us a lot to discuss. So it does provide a very nice amount of flavor, and then a very important intermediate zone where they're getting a lot of sugar and a lot of acid. So that's the important parts of the anatomy of the Riesling grape. All right, next, please. All right, so where in the world is Carmen Sandiego making these wines?
You want me to minimize that so you can get to New York?
Yes, please. Oh, yeah.
That's what happens when Jeff is using them.
That's right. There you go. All right, so
there.
The Finger Lakes. Here we are, right about here. So right about the middle, right? Yeah, if you run over, you're over here in Napa, just a little north of Napa, Washington State. So you can see where that would work.
Sure.
Here we are up here are the Finger Lakes, just south of the Great Lakes. And here at Seneca Lake is where we are specifically. So the sub-AVA Finger Lakes American Viticultural area. This is the Seneca Lake, and we are down here on the western side. Boom, here we are. So you see this 632 feet deep?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Right? So it's a lake effect growing area. The lakes are very important to growing quality grapes here. Now, traditionally, they grew a lot of domestic, they were just indigenous grapes to the area, and they were able to make low alcohol sweet wines out of it. But they are now moving because they realize if they use the right wine growing techniques, and it does take specific techniques to make it work in this area, they can make some really nice wine here. So Hermann Wiemer came over in the 60s with 300 years of family background from winemaking in Germany, and really felt like I can make this happen. Right. So 632 feet deep. That water cools things down in the summer to keep it from getting too hot.
Sure.
Warms things in the winter, and provides a lot of additional light because it bounces off. Just like in Germany, it tends to be around rivers and lakes, because the sun bouncing off the water also helps grow the grapes in addition to what comes down. Now, let's see. The average summertime temp is around 80 degrees Fahrenheit, so not too bad. They fall about 20 degrees at night, so they chill out to help stop the ripening from getting too far ahead of itself and slow it down, because what you want is a slow ripen to get more character in the grape, and that pulls more from the soil and the minerality to get a better wine. If you get a fast ripen, you just get a big fruity thing with lots of alcohol in it. So the soil here has a name. So here's the Finger Lakes vineyards, and you see they're all along the lake. They actually have, the soil is a little more fertile than we usually talk about.
Yeah, we talked about that last week because we haven't seen it. I mean, flowers in between. Yeah. Yeah.
So they have a little more fertility to the soil and a little more moisture during the growing season.
I mean, that's more of a battle then.
It is. So part of what they do is, you see, when they, like what Wiemer has done is he's taken these and he's planted them the opposite way of here. This is what, perpendicular to the lake. So
are they not running this way?
I think they're running,
and the lake is
they're
running
parallel.
this
So
way?
they're parallel to the lake. He's planting them perpendicular to the lake.
Okay.
Because evidently wind blows up and it dries the grapes down, so it allows them to stop the mildew issue. But he's been working on a lot of very specific to this area techniques to grow some better stuff. And here's the Palmyra soil, right? Grayish brown gravel and loam, where loam is sand, silt, and clay. The clay is going to give it that nice mineral content that we're looking for. But like I said, it's not devoid of organic matter, so it's a little richer. So you got to stress them out in some ways. They're not as stressed, which makes it a little harder to give as much character.
Sure.
So what he's working with, I mean, the fact that we're taking this, we're getting nice multiple flavors. We're not just saying, oh, well, this is basically honey and peaches, shows the work that they're putting in. Next one, please. All right, so here we are at the winery. So Hermann.
Okay, so this shows it perpendicular.
Right.
To the lake.
Hey, it's what I said. Holy.
Just cut yourself off right there.
I did. I'm so happy that's on there.
Because I was looking at the last one going parallel.
Yeah, no, it's parallel. Yeah, no, I just mixed up my words. That I did. But so you see them perpendicular in order to get that freeze up there and dry the grapes. So like I said, Hermann Wiemer comes from Bernkastel, Germany. 300 years of family winemaking. Took a job offer in New York in the 1960s. And at the time, they were only making those native grape sweet wines.
Right.
Nothing particularly impressive. Nothing that would make it to our wine of the week tasting. But Hermann believed that the quality in the grapes in this region could be much better than what they were. And he began to bring over European grapes. He bought 140 acres on the west side, right where it is now, of Lake Seneca in 1973. He began planting Vitis vinifera, the wine grape, and started a nursery to sell these vines to other people. So he wasn't making his own wine at first. He was growing and selling wine vines to other areas of the world.
Of the world, not just of
mostly in the U.S., but it could have been anywhere. Yeah. Right. So currently the winery as it's currently designed happened in 1982. So we went almost 10 years later and produces 12,000 cases per year.
When you said it was done in 1982, because I can't remember if we saw the inside last week or not, but I just imagine, it's all mauve.
It's never been mauve. Changed. It's mauve and it's all Formica.
Yeah, there you go.
So in 2001, Fred Murwath became the apprentice winemaker at the winery. So go up and Fred is the winemaker of the year from last year. So this is the inside of the winery. They do this cool thing where they're like, it's like a little bit like a church, a little bit like a barn. And you can see the tanks over there. So Fred asked Hermann if he had any connections to winemakers over in Germany because he wanted to go learn from the best, right? And go over there. And Fred, I'm paraphrasing the story, but Hermann said, no, I really don't know anybody, but you can work with me, because Hermann was really impressed by Fred's resume and wanted him to work with him.
Right.
So he kind of tricked him. And then after Fred was working with Hermann for a little while, he realized you have a whole bunch of people that you know. But he stayed and he worked here and he fell in love with the area. And so in 2003, they eliminated all the herbicides and began growing organically, using organic practices. They haven't skipped a vintage in order to get the official designation of organic, but they're organic. Right. But
they can't slap that on.
They can't slap it on the label, but they use organic practices. All right. 2007, Hermann officially retired and Fred takes over the reins completely. And in 2021, Fred is awarded the Wine Enthusiast Winemaker of the Year. Let's go to the next slide, please. And we will hear. Oh, wait. This is part of, I wanted to show the rootstock. They were growing the grapes. So this is what they were selling.
So as a layperson, I'm looking at this and thinking, that's dead.
Oh, right.
I'm not buying this. It's dead. What am I going to do with that? This is a scam. But evidently that's what they look like.
That is what they look like. They
The
put 'em
winter, in the winter time, they do drop the leaves. Those are upside down, of course.
Yeah. No,
Right.
I figured they were, but they look dead, right?
Yeah, they make these little garden plots, at least where we go, and they must make cuttings or something and just stick them in the ground and let them grow or die, whatever. It's just amazing. I didn't know you could do that with grapes.
No,
Right.
and for me too, I have a different, I didn't mean to advance this, but
Okay.
I have a different outlook on plants too, because being from South Florida, everything's green all the time.
Oh, right.
So
Yeah, right.
what is this dropping of leaves
Yeah, right.
thing? I don't understand any of that.
Deciduous.
Yeah, no.
What was I saw there was a thing from Brian on there. Is it?
Oh, he just said that 1982 was a good year because evidently he's probably kissing up to Julie, or maybe he was born that same year. I don't remember.
I don't know.
Oh, Julie. Well, I knew Julie. Yeah. See, that's when her birthday is.
All too young. So. Are you allowed to be drinking this wine?
Right.
You're only 40 years old. All right. So let's hear from Fred about what is now his winery that he's controlling and has really given so much to in his life for advancing it.
That was the first one. I said, I can trust you. You move the wine. We clean the tank now. We can move the wine.
When I started with Hermann, it was out of the interest of understanding winemaking and learning winemaking from master to an apprentice.
What I admire about Fred is his intuition in the vineyards and the cellars. His passion, it engages, it inspires everyone around him.
Why did I choose the Finger Lakes, or why did I decide to stay in the Finger Lakes? It's a remarkable region. It has so much opportunity. There's diversity here from one plot of land to another, soils, mesoclimates. That part continues to be just completely exciting. Riesling being the main variety for the Finger Lakes, it's a variety that's amazingly reflective of its place and can give you angles and complexities that you didn't necessarily know existed on the plot of land. How we farm, how we take care of the land directly impacts everyone here, from myself to my kids, my team in the winery, in the tasting room, especially in the vineyard. Our decisions and our drive to be sustainable, to be biodynamic, is critical for everyone's health and well-being. And that is our number one role here, was to move this ecosystem and our farm in that direction. I've never thought about it with respect to it being about me. It's about the collective that is able to pull together throughout a growing season, through a vintage, and get wines from grape to the bottle, and everyone involved in that process.
All right, so I know that's the video we showed last week as well, but I mean it's a great video for showing why I chose this winery as we go into the Finger Lakes.
Well, I love that they're such a part of the community and they feel a responsibility toward doing those sustainable things that,
Right.
you know, to help the community. So,
Right. Well, you know, that's, I know I don't normally do 2-part series, right? So a lot of people don't see repeat stuff, but I like to throw in the sweetness, right? You know, and,
well, and for anybody who missed last week or.
that's right. And
know.
there's a couple people.
Mhm.
So, and welcome back. I knew Brian would have to get in on this.
Oh yeah.
No doubt. It's a delicious wine too. All right.
So do we want to do impressions before we talk about,
yes.
you know?
So all right. So
go ahead.
now that I've kind of covered the whole thing, the whole shebang. Any last thoughts, new thoughts? Has it changed at all for you? What are you guys thinking of the wine as we draw toward giving it a rating?
I really like this. I don't think this necessarily evolves ton over the length of having it open. Jerry did mention getting a slight amount of petrol at the very beginning and then not getting it. And I kind of disagreed at the beginning because I kind of opened it, poured it, drank it. But I re-upped when I was like completely out, poured it. It kind of like was aggressive in the glass. And I did get a little bit of it, like a hint. But it does die out, and it really evolves into being this really nice fruity, but again in that kind of like peach or pear or blossomy sort of thing. Very honey. I like this a lot. We had a spicy stir fry tonight.
It was very spicy. If you saw me go
or dabbing my head a little bit as I try to duck away.
That's how I handle it. Yeah,
because it was a little spicier than I intended, but it was a great pairing. It went so nicely with it. I like this a lot.
Good. I'm glad. That's great. I do love a lightly sweet wine with spicy food.
Yeah,
it is so great. Oh my gosh, the back and forth on that. I didn't put sushi on there. Sushi would be an amazing pairing as well. Yeah, and Thai food.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Thai food would be great.
Yeah, the first time Jeff ever had Thai was in Miami, and we ordered. Some of you may have heard the story already. We ordered everything mild because we knew he couldn't handle, and he's like,
oh, I was dying.
Dabbing everything. Now you would be better.
I've gotten a lot better with spice. Yeah.
But the rest of us are going, oh my gosh, this is so bland now. We can't taste anything because we were used to hot. But
yeah, I can't imagine if you guys.
I love Thai food.
If you had gotten the hot one.
Oh, you would have gone to the hospital?
We would not have gotten married. I just would have left. Been like, you're insane.
All the milk in the house to try and combat it. Yeah.
Like, no one who can eat that is sane. Yeah.
No, it's delicious, but not a lot of. You didn't have a lot of experience with spice.
Though. No, I did not. Yeah. But I've come a long way.
You've come a long way. There you go.
Well, this makes me feel like I should have put more spice because we did scallops, and I put. We did the garlic and the salt and the smoked paprika, but then on mine I added Tony Chachere's. I feel like I should have added more Tony Chachere's to mine and gone with even like the hotter version of that because it did go well. And then I agree with Chris that to me this didn't evolve much, but I loved it from the beginning. So I have a question because I missed some of the conversation. The petrol feeling are we talking about like that filminess feeling, that lingering, that butteriness? That's not the petrol thing that you were talking about.
No, the petrol is normally on the nose, and so in a lot of Rieslings, when you first pop that open and you're pouring it in your glass, you're going to get a real like a petrol-y, like a fresh open can of tennis balls. Like but this doesn't really have that as much.
Yeah, that's what Jerry.
Well, that explains it because I thought he was talking about that there's like a filminess.
It's like me. Right. No, I get you. And that's a textural thing. And that's just a little bit of like a viscosity from the grape.
Yeah. And then some of the other pairings we have, the Snyders did a creamy broccoli, chicken rice, cream sauce.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And I could see this is so light to balance out the heavier cream. Yeah.
And it has enough acid to go with the cream, with the cream sauce.
Yeah.
It's been a couple years since we did a Riesling. And we did the Dr. Lucen Mosel, his classic Dr. L.
Yeah.
And everyone at the time, because it was a summertime tasting, wink, probably did it on purpose twice. Everyone said, I would normally not grab a Riesling. And now I realize for summertime, how appropriate it is and how nice it is. Rieslings are really good. They're very good wine. I really do want people to appreciate them. I kind of feel like sometimes I'm that guy with like, I'm standing on the street corner. I'm like, sake and a Riesling is good. Don't just think it's crap. Like
you had that's the thing though. You have to try the right ones because we have a lot of crap, Sake and Riesling.
Right, exactly. Yes, exactly.
That's
Good point.
available.
Yeah, there's a lot of garbage Riesling out there. There's a lot of garbage Sake out there.
So you could see how people, if those are their only experiences with it, then and I agree though about I feel like it pretty much is. I don't think there's a lot of evolution. I liked it from the first sip. I still like it now. I don't feel like it's changed a lot.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much part of that is it's a white wine. White wines do not evolve as much as red.
Are they just not as affected by oxygen?
They're not. They're not as, you know,
all right.
So
I think in my opinion, white wines are more affected by temperature than they are oxygen, because I think white wines, I think for beer, stouts are very similar, that if you get them at like a 48 to 50 degrees, and as they start to warm up in the glass, that's where they can come out nicely, but it is not being opened for an hour or something like that. That's not really good.
No, that was the exact thing I was gonna say. Like I was gonna say literally that exact same thing. Like stouts, when they warm up, nothing's really changing, but it tastes a little bit sweeter to me now that it's warming up temperature wise. But yeah, I definitely agree with that 100%.
I agree with you, Elizabeth, that for me, it hasn't really changed at all. And unfortunately, that means I'm going through this so quickly.
Right? I know. That's why I just told him I got to calm down on it. I want to have some with the snapper, and there's not a lot left.
For red wine, I'm normally like, okay, well, let this breathe or open up or something like that. And this, I'm just like,
no, this is.
Yes.
Yeah, a good call. Yeah, it's a pounder, right? I mean, it is. Right. Let's like taking all the fancy talk aside, it's something you just like glug glug, right? And
well,
like
it's only 12%, so right. Yes, right. You know.
Only.
Well, right. I mean, compared to a 16% Australian.
Yeah, right. No,
Shiraz.
Absolutely. I just like I always think of it because I'm such a beer and wine guy,
right?
And people are like, oh, that 8% beer is really high ABV. And you're like, it's only 12% wine, you know? It's like,
right.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Yeah. So when they get too warm, you just stick an ice cube in them, right? I just wanted to see that.
Yeah.
Keep the bottle in the fridge.
Yeah, exactly.
We never have a chance to see how it changes over time because it doesn't last that long. Harriet made Jaeger schnitzel tonight, which is a German Wiener schnitzel with Jaeger sauce.
That sounds
accompanied by American corn on the cob. So that went over. When we're in Bernkastel, everything goes with Riesling.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, right. So that's awesome. I like Robin said the same thing.
I think it's Chris, but
it's Chris. Yeah, Chris. Same thing with beer. Yeah, you're like, whoa, that's a high alcohol beer, and you're like, that's a low alcohol wine.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, it is. Do the same thing. All right, so let us see
if there's a wine you can do that too. This is it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, like pounding it. Yeah, it's just it's fresh. It's pleasant. Yeah. It's got complexity. It rewards you. It's a delicious wine.
And to me, because I know it's kind of on the sweeter side of dry, but as I'm drinking it, I don't feel it getting cloying. Because sometimes if things are sweet, like it gets to be, okay, I can have one glass and that's it because it's too sweet. It just builds up too much.
Right.
I can say one more thing. You know, it was a debate in the store the other night. I guess there was 2 ratings on the sign there, and one of them said it was dry and the other one said it was a little sweeter or something, but the Germans, I think, would call this Halftrocken, Trocken being dry, and you get to the point to where is it sweet or not, and they call it Halftrocken. But it's very good. I really like it, Jeff. Very nice.
Oh, good. Thank you. Yeah. I'm glad. And you know what? And hats off to these guys making some really nice Riesling in New York. And you know, we get to explore the area. So I was excited. I tasted these wines obviously before we did this. I was hopeful that I would finally find a winery that I could get behind and really feel good about having wine high enough quality to be from our store. And these guys nailed it. They're really good.
And within a reasonable price point for being domestic too.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing is you get these guys and they're like
domestic East Coast, let's say, because obviously California's
because I've seen a whole bunch of things. They bring me Cab Francs and Rieslings from the Niagara area, and they're retailing at $45, $48 a bottle to the customer. And I'm thinking, look, people aren't used to your area yet. Like,
Right.
I get that you're a small producer. I'm not holding it against you. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying it's not going to translate very well to the customer.
No, it's not.
But this price, quality, story is all comes together.
Yeah.
And I'm glad it seems to be well received. So let's finish this guy up.
Okay.
All right, so ratings on this guy, we were up in the outstanding category, right? So the way I like to look at ratings is the most important thing for you to start with is, did I enjoy the wine, right? But then also think, is it my kind of wine, right? So am I not even a white wine drinker, but what did I think about it with that in mind? And then you take it into, how about this versus other Rieslings I've had? And then you take it into, how is this for the region? The most important starts with, did you enjoy the wine? But then, was it well made? You know, was this a hazy, funky, foot-smelling beast? No, you know, it was vinted properly, right? So you can take that off the board as a problem. So you take it down in those priority levels, I think is appropriate. I can't say that, you know, I make the rules, but I'm just saying, I go with, did I like it? Was it well made? Was it good for that grape, even if that grape is not my favorite, right? And then was it particularly good for that region? That might give it a point, like bump, that kind of a thing. Or was it good for the price? So those are things to all kind of mesh together into these things that we call ratings. So also keeping in mind that an 85 to 89 is a very good wine. Effectively, what the market calls an 85 a failure, which I find annoying, that an 85 is considered a failure because that's not what they wrote, right? If you want 85 to be a failure, then call it a 5 or something. And, you know, anyway.
Yeah, or say it's not recommended at 85 and just change the drinkable range to being smaller.
But I've seen more and more people, it seems to be making some movement. It used to be, and I still see, like there are companies, wine companies out there, we carry nothing under 90 points. Well, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my soapbox. So here we are. Very good wine, a good solid wine, an outstanding wine. Does it come up into outstanding because of certain qualities, you know? Is it a classic wine that you want to serve to your children's children? So
is it a classic wine you want to serve to your children? Maybe once they're of
when
age.
They're of age. I want to be 105 sharing this with my 95-year-old children and their 85-year-old children.
You're 105 and you have 95-year-old children?
I'm doing bad math. All right.
All right. So stop the share and read some of these.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right. Let me go back to the beginning of the Chris, a solid 92. Robin might even go to a 93.
Really?
Paula, 93. 99, Brian. We would have guessed that.
Brian does want to need to serve it to his children's children.
There you go. And then Julie, 89.
Okay.
Okay. Brian and I are going to go golf and bring 4 bottles with us. I'm guessing that's Paul. And then Jill, 91.
Right.
Jason, I'm happy I tried this Riesling. Have to look at the bottom for spelling. And I would have too. And I'm a good 92. Sad Jen bowed out tonight based on the R word.
She missed out though, right?
She's not hardcore. She wouldn't try something new. We're gonna have to make fun of her next week.
See, and you can tell her she missed out on something good.
Yep.
It's tasty.
A Consuelo, 92. More enjoyable when cold.
Yeah, I get the Christmas. Yeah.
But doesn't change taste. And I agree. I like it better cold.
Right.
91 from both the Hogsheads. Awesome.
Nice.
And yeah, the story game keeps crashing when they type, but their rating is 92 to 94. That's a bizarre thing. I haven't had that happen before.
You know, and when we were talking about crushing this wine, then I felt badly because I think they only have 1 bottle for all of them. So I just picture all of them going, Oh, you got to. Oh, good. Oh, you had enough. I wasn't sure. I couldn't remember. And I thought they'd all be like, damn it, I only got one,
Yeah, I think the term too that you used was pounding it.
Mhm.
I think it's because we've been rewatching Cougar Town and they always say, let's pound some grape.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that's where you picked it up.
By the way, Cougar Town's going to start being played at Tipple's.
They drink wine constantly.
It's hilarious, and they drink wine constantly.
Yeah.
Like I need another reason to hang out at Tipple's.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, it's really good.
Yeah, you should watch it. It's fantastic.
It's very funny.
Same writers as
No,
Scrubs.
I've never seen it, but
It's good.
But it's highly recommended, so I think we need to watch it, or at least I do.
Yeah.
You have.
Yeah, you will love it.
You'll
love it.
It's very fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's a palate cleanser from the news. So
so what I'm enjoying right now is I started the exploration of the Hermann Wiemer winery with the red to kind of like, hey everybody, it's red. You don't have to worry. It's okay.
Right.
And it was well received. It was a good wine. It is a good wine, still in the store. But the Riesling, if anything, has gotten a little higher ratings.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It's
what they're known for.
I would do a 92.5, 6, 7. Yeah.
Okay.
Not quite a 93 for me, but yeah,
That's
92 plus.
It's a white wine with a little sweetness to it, and you're giving it that high rating.
I was actually shocked when I took a sip, and I was actually shocked. Now, knowing it's a Riesling, that of course, I mean, like if I'm gonna pick a bottle of white, I definitely want it to go with like snapper like we have tonight,
right,
or spicy like people were mentioning, especially like spicy Thai or spicy sushi, something like that.
Right.
It does pair better
right,
than a cab. I will admit that it does pair better than a cab.
In the right place, right? Fish tacos or something would be awesome with it.
Oh yeah. Especially like spicy fish tacos. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah,
awesome. I'm glad you enjoyed it too.
Okay.
Is Brian wearing a Youngling t-shirt? Of course he is.
Yeah.
How can you talk stouts and wear a Yingling t-shirt?
Yingling is one of the best breweries in the United States, America's oldest brewery from 1829. So if you're going to talk trash on Yingling, you're talking trash on beer.
Look at him.
He's ready to defend their honor too. Yeah.
He just mowed up to me on Zoom.
I know, right? All right, let's go. Let's thank our sources.
Okay.
And then we'll talk about next week's wine. All right. Thank you very much to Wine Folly always. They're amazing. All right. 750.com, Wikipedia, Wiemer.com. Makes sense. They made the wine. And Zimmerman Mulch for that awesome picture of the soil. Hey, if you're up there in New York and need some mulch, go to Zimmerman.
There you go.
For all my tens of watchers on this thing. So.
I mean,
you have to post them. You haven't posted anything in 5 months.
Well, that may be a truth fact. Yes.
Okay.
Right.
That's going to be on my list of things to project manage you about. There you go.
Okay.
Post videos.
Yeah, I have a reminder for every Wednesday.
It's not doing you very good.
It is not. You can come to the store with me.
Ready?
Right. Yes. All right. So the next wine of the week is.
I stopped the share. Sorry. Sorry, you can't know.
Nailed it. All right. That's fine.
You could learn how to use the mouse.
That's your job. The Rombauer Zinfandel, Rombauer Winery of Napa Valley fame, right? So we are going to I wrote a whole thing, right? We're going to America's signature grape, right? Because that's my point. That is my position.
Yep. This is his running platform.
That's right. Zinfandel is America's signature grape. We grow 90+% of it in the world, and we grow the best of it in the world. And we're going to go to Rombauer, a classic Napa Valley producer, their version of Zinfandel. Wine Enthusiast 91, Willy Wong 90, Food pairings, roast eggplant curry with chickpeas.
Sounds good.
You like that?
Mhm.
Barbecue meats, any of them. Right. Just mention one. Yes. All right. Spicy tuna or salmon roll.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Because
Yes.
it really works well. Zinfandel works well with the spicy. Interesting sourcing on this guy. So we're going to have some fun talking about that.
Okay.
Yeah. So come back and join us again. You won't be sorry. It's delicious.
All right.
So. And that's it.
Cheers. I need more for our snapper. So
That's right.
cheers, everyone.
Cheers, everybody. Sláinte.